You're sitting at dinner with your family. Everyone around the table is laughing at something someone just said, and you smile too because it felt like the right thing to do. But honestly, you have no idea what the joke was. You caught maybe half of it, you filled in the rest, and then the conversation moved on and you just let it go. That moment right there, that quiet little let it go, happens more often than most people realize. And if it's been happening to you, I want you to know something first. You are not imagining it, and you are not alone. Millions of people go through this without ever connecting the dots because the changes are so gradual, so quiet, that they sneak up on you in the most ordinary moments of your life. That is actually what makes hearing changes so tricky. It is not usually a sudden thing where you wake up one morning and the world sounds different. Most of the time, it shows up slowly through small shifts in how you move through conversations and social situations. And today, I want to walk you through 5 of those social habits, the ones that are easy to brush off as no big deal, but actually tell you something important about what your hearing may be doing. The first one is laughing along without really knowing why. This is probably the most common thing people never talk about. When you are in a group and you miss the punchline, or you only catch the tail end of what was said, your brain does something interesting. It looks for social cues. Someone laughs, so you laugh. Someone nods, so you nod. You piece together the emotion of the moment without actually hearing the content. Researchers have a name for this. They call it social masking, and it is something the brain does naturally when it is working extra hard to fill in the gaps that missing sound creates. If you find yourself doing this regularly in group settings, it is worth paying attention to. The second habit is quietly moving closer to people without noticing you are doing it. Think about the last few social events you attended. Did you find yourself drifting toward whoever was speaking, leaning in more than usual, maybe even tilting your head slightly toward someone's mouth? This is not a quirk or a nervous habit. The body is doing this on purpose. When speech starts to feel unclear, we instinctively try to close the distance to catch more of it. We start relying on lip movement and facial expressions more than we used to. If someone turns their head while talking to you and you suddenly lose the thread of the conversation, that is a small but telling sign that your hearing has been leaning on visual support more than you realized. The third habit is avoiding noisy places and calling it a preference. Restaurants, parties, family gatherings, birthday celebrations at busy venues. If you have started finding excuses to skip these or leave early, and if you feel a kind of quiet relief when plans get canceled, it may not actually be that you have become more introverted. People who cannot engage easily or feel left out of conversations often find that it is just easier to decline invitations and stay at home. What looks like a social preference from the outside can actually be the result of the exhausting mental work that comes with trying to follow conversations in noisy places. When you have trouble hearing, it takes a greater cognitive effort just to keep up, and that can leave you feeling mentally fatigued in a way that is hard to explain to others. The fourth habit is becoming the person who always says you mumble. This one is almost universal. The first part of hearing to fade is often the ability to discern high-frequency sounds. And in speech, those are consonant sounds like ch, sh, and th. When you can hear vowels but not consonants, it genuinely sounds like people are not speaking clearly, so it is easy to blame them. So you find yourself thinking, your spouse mumbles, your coworker speaks too fast, your grandchildren do not enunciate, and here is the honest thing, sometimes they do. But if almost everyone around you seems to have developed a sudden mumbling problem, it is worth asking what the common thread is. This is not about blame, it is just a useful thing to notice. The fifth habit is feeling unusually tired after social events. Not physically tired, but mentally drained in a way that does not quite make sense given what you were doing. You were just at a dinner or a meeting or a gathering, and now you feel like you ran a mental marathon. The constant strain of trying to hear can be exhausting because the effort required to piece together fragmented sound is immense. Your brain is essentially doing extra processing work the entire time, trying to complete sentences, guess at words, read lips, watch facial expressions, and hold everything in short-term memory long enough to make sense of it. Now, here is what ties all 5 of these habits together. They are not really about volume, they are about clarity. Most people assume hearing loss just means things get quieter, like someone is slowly turning down the world's volume knob. But that is not usually how it works. What actually changes, especially in the early and middle stages, is the sharpness of speech. Sounds are there, but they blur into each other. Words lose their edges. And that is why turning up the TV does not always help. Louder does not mean clearer. So here's where I'll leave you. If you recognize yourself in any of these 5 habits, don't brush it off. It's usually a clarity issue, not people mumbling. Quick note, this applies most to the I hear sound but miss words stage. If hearing is severely reduced, getting checked professionally is the best first step. If this feels familiar, head to the description. I've linked Hear Direct Club's Nova there so you can see an option built for real-life conversations without the clinic runaround. And if you decide to try it, use code YT10 for 10% off. And if you want more simple, practical videos like this, subscribe. We're posting regularly.